Hello there, this is Krystal, and you're listening to the Krystal Archive podcast.
Welcome to the Krystal Archive Podcast, episode number 24, recorded on February 13th, 2010. I'm Mr. Krystal, your host, and we have a very special guest for you today. Allow me to introduce Star Fox Runner.
Hello there, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you.
Oh, man, you're really freaking me out. Anyways, we've got a guest, a special guest host today, and that's going to hopefully make it a lot more of an interesting podcast than just listening to me talk the whole time. So, do you want to introduce yourself? You know, how we know each other and stuff, or, you know, what?
Well, I met Mr. Krystal here on Star Fox Online about 3 years ago. And I discovered it by listening to this very podcast. And there was a time when Star Fox Online had an IRC chat, and we just started talking to each other on there. After the IRC chat kind of fell through, we continued talking to each other on a regular basis through IM, and, well, here we are today.
Indeed. What say we get to the news?
Okay, then.
All right, so this is the news that's happened since last time. On the Krystal Archive. You know what? Let's change it. We've had some technical difficulties getting this podcast started. I'd like you to start us off this time, talking about the first news item.
Okay, then. Well, apparently after you got back home for Christmas break, you spent several hours, finished up the remaining work for a new fan art post, which was an amazing 836. After that, you decided to make the system better, am I right?
That's right.
And that became your vacation project. You were always working.
Yeah, I don't really consider myself a workaholic, but just that the things that I enjoy doing are basically creative things rather than passive things. Lots and lots of new fan arts. I couldn't quite finish the fan arts before I left for my Christmas break. I almost finished them, but I also took some time away to work on the last podcast, which I did manage to ship before my plane left the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my next news item is that a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, complained that they just did not want to see that much poser art, the 3D fan art of Little Dragon's Krystal model, because of the comparative ease of posing and rendering a model versus actually drawing out and shading a traditional picture. So I didn't really want to do it because it's a lot of work to separate those things out.
I'll bet.
But you know what? So many people asked that I decided to just go ahead and do it. And we'll get into how I did it and other related things about the fan art later on in the news.
If I may.
Oh, yes? What?
You mentioned what you're saying, how some people didn't like how people are using poser art. Well, my opinion on that is that, well, isn't any kind of thing you can make considered a work of art? There's obviously big debates that could go on right there, but that's just my opinion. People have their opinions of what they think is art, but then again, that's the opinion. Some people think something is art, other people think it's stupid.
Well, that's an interesting point. My opinion is rather extreme in regard to art, because I had some relatively bad experiences with academic art in my early college career, and I basically learned that to say something, to say a given, you know, drawn image or video or sculpture or something, whatever it is, to say that it is art adds absolutely nothing to its description. You're saying nothing about, you're saying nothing that we can quantify about that piece by saying that it is art, you know, because there is no universal meaning of art. It's endlessly debated, and what's art to one person is not art to another. And as a result, I find that academic debates about one piece of art versus another to be pointless. It's a good image that, makes me feel happy. I enjoy looking at pictures of Krystal, not because they're artistic, but because I like the subject matter, you see.
It can all boil down to one person's philosophy, basically.
Yes.
It isn't always academic. Like, I am an adamant believer that video games are an art form. Like, there's obviously bad games and there's good games, but if you believe it's art, then it should be considered.
Right. Well, the problem occurs is when two people don't agree what art is, and then
exactly.
And then, which is what happened to me when I was in my undergraduate studies, is that the person who decided what was art was the art teacher. Which basically means that in order to get a good grade, I had to be artistic only to the extent to which I could satisfy the personal whims of my professor, which I think violates the very spirit that they were talking about when they were talking about art. So I find it a bit hypocritical. So a funny story. So I was just having no success in impressing my teacher, or even giving him, quote, good quality work. And so I said, okay, you know what? I've got a theory about that. So I went and I made several pieces, in the subject matter at hand, the things that we were working on. It was graphic design, So it was not like drawing a person. It was like drawing shapes and drawing lines and how they connect. And so I went and I made a bunch of designs, and I took the ones I hated the most. I made preview versions of different versions, and I took the 4 or 5 of them that I hated the most, right? And I finished them up. I did them in the full quality, right? And I presented them to him. And you know what he said?
What?
Well, you've made a breakthrough. And I'm like, let me tell you how I made these. But the worst part was when I told him that I made these because they were the ones I hated the most. He said, well, yeah, that's how art works. And then at that point I decided to give up on ever trying to understand it, because I didn't think there was anything to understand. And that's why I have fairly strong opinions about this. But with regard to 3D art versus regular art, in this case, I don't think it's a matter of the people questioning art versus non-art, because I think everyone acknowledges that to some extent all of it is technically art. They go in the main complaint that people have is that when you pose a figure and push the render button, it does not compare in the amount of effort involved than compared to actually outlining a character and then shading it and coloring it and all that other stuff that comes in. You're just taking something that's fabricating and move it around and then you push a button. And they don't consider that. I mean, there's always examples of good ones. I mean, I've seen excellent examples of 3D art, but usually it's when they actually put some real effort into the pose and even make it animated. And that's fine. I've favorited several of the 3D arts in the 3D art section. Yeah. But they are right. It does take a lot less effort, and a lot of artists have taken to the idea of simply posing the character in interesting situations and then making art out of the things that they're saying as like a comic. Yeah. Which is fine, but again, a lot of people don't appreciate that, and that's hence the reason why they asked for the separation.
Yeah. Now, there's one thing I want to mention, though. You mentioned saying how it's so much easier to take something and put it to what you want it to look like in 3D models. Well, yes. You basically do stuff like that in photography when you're taking actual pictures. You tell someone how to stand. That's something that you didn't create, like a person. So
That's true, but you know what? If you find the opportunity to do an actual photo shoot with the real crystal, you let me know. I'll consider that art. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then I sure will.
Let's go on to the next story.
Okay.
I believe it's your turn.
This is about you using your thesis on Christmas?
Did you see that video?
Yeah, I saw that video. That was pretty cool. You just applied the crystal model to the thing, wasn't it?
I took the Brawl crystal model because I can open it in Blender, and I just ran it through the same system that I used on my other models while doing my thesis research.
Managed to...
And it makes... And I showed how the edge detection works on the crystal model. It's like a 9-minute video full of very technical... I mean, I was being like... I wasn't being as technical as I could have been. And apparently people were still confused, which I guess means that I'm an expert. I don't really feel like an expert at this stuff.
Well, I would say
there's
you
so
were.
much I don't know. Huh?
I would say you are. Because, I mean, I'm just more of a visionary type person. I don't know anything about how most stuff like this works. So I was listening the whole time. A lot of the stuff you said made sense from the little bits I understood, but the rest of it just went over my head.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it was, I assumed, a basic understanding of the way 3D models work and stuff in three-dimensional space, but yeah, I mean, I could explain all of it, but I didn't have time to explain all of 3D concepts in that video, so I just went with more, a simplified explanation of what my thesis research was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty cool.
It was cool.
Did you like the garden? I made a garden out of crystals.
Yeah, I think I saw that. That was I do remember that now. That was really funny looking.
I turned on all the normals for the model, and I had colored the face normals green and the vertex normals blue. And by the way, normals are just lines that point straight out of a flat surface.
Yeah, which made it look kind of like a tree when you made it on.
when you turn all that on, because Krystal's a complicated model, you can't really see Krystal anymore. It's just a bunch of lines that are green and blue. And so I turned a lot of crystals on, and they all lined up in rows, and it looks like plants.
I noticed when you mentioned something in the video, and I could kind of hear it. Once you started putting more crystal models in and doing stuff with it, your computer fan kind of went into overdrive, didn't it?
Yeah, because I was telling the computer to run as fast as it could.
Wow.
I wasn't telling it to restrict itself.
Huh.
And
what computer were you running it off of?
I was actually running it off of my laptop. It was a 13-inch MacBook aluminum. They only made one version of the MacBook that had aluminum unibody. Every other one had a plastic body.
Yeah, mine's a 15-inch MacBook Pro.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, yours is probably more powerful than mine. But the good thing is it has got a fairly recent graphics card, which means it can use advanced rendering shading technologies.
I'm guessing it was NVIDIA?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's what mine runs off of.
Yeah, it's fairly common in the Apple products these days. Mm-hmm. I've actually advanced significantly since that video on my thesis, but you know what? I'm going to save that for later. The next bit of news was the Star Fox competition marathon.
Oh, yes,
which
was cool.
happened over New Year's Day. It was a 23 or 32-hour Star Fox competition. There were two teams that often do these video game marathons for charity.
Wasn't it called the Speedrunners?
Well, one of them was called the New York. You know what? Let me look it up. It was the two teams are. I mean, they had two names, right? One team name was Team Fox
and Team Wolf,
and Team Star Wolf or Wolf, and the two teams themselves let's see. Team Fox is made up of the Ocean City Trinity team.
Aha.
And the Wolf team is the One Up Marathons.
And they related to oneup.com, I assume?
Yes. Only wait, I think I got that backwards, actually.
So just flip the teams around, right?
Yeah, Team Fox was 1-up marathons, and Team Wolf was Ocean City Trinity.
Aha.
So there you go.
Oops.
All right. So they were doing this for charity for the World Food Program. They made up a list of achievements in all of the different Star Fox games and the Star Fox sections of Super Smash Brothers, the three games in that series.
Aha.
And they had 36 hours to complete as many of those as they could. They were trying to raise at least $2,000 for the World Food Program. And they started playing on January 1st, 2010 at noon Eastern Standard Time.
Aha.
I managed to get in there like right when they got started because I'd forgotten about it, and I woke up late at noon.
I honestly didn't get a chance to watch it. I just me being only a high schooler, I only had so much I could do.
Well, right. Well, it was on a Saturday. Or well, no, it wasn't a Saturday, but it was. Well, I don't know if it was Saturday or not, but it was New Year's Day. You should have had that off. But anyways,
I guess I'm just pretty lazy.
I got there late. I got there at noon. I woke up at noon or whatever because I had spent the night or late at night getting other stuff ready for other stuff with the site and stuff. So when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm an hour late because in their time it would be 1 p.m. But they had some technical difficulties, so I managed to get in right at the beginning. And I was there, and several other people I knew were there. I believe Undying
Nephilim?
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name. He was there, and we chatted, and we just because one of the teams started with Star Fox Adventures, and we just went with one-liner after one-liner talking about the game because there's so much weird stuff in that game. It was great. And when they got stuck, we'd tell them okay, you have to go here and you have to push that button or whatever.
Yeah. I played the Star Fox game so many
long.
times I could probably tell you everything about them from top to bottom.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And you would have been useful there. So they did that, and they played through, and for a while, the team Star Fox was way ahead because they did everything in Adventures, and they started with Adventures, and Team Wolf started playing with other games. And so Team Wolf got ahead at the beginning because they had, so many different games because Adventures takes such a long time. But when they finished Adventures, they jumped way ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I can assume that.
And then towards the end, though, at the very end, a few hours before the marathon was over, something happened to Team Wolf's video stream, and they just lost connection. And they lost their whole internet connection.
Oh.
And so basically, Team Wolf won by default. 2,515 to 1,670.
Oh, that kind of stinks.
Yeah, I think it would have been much closer if they hadn't had that cutout there. I managed to get them to let me take a picture from the video stream before they left, and they're all very tired after all that.
I would assume.
And they raised a grand total of $140, but I don't know if they got any more donations after the marathon was complete. But all in all, fairly fun, successful charity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't have a lot of time because I was with my family, and my family wanted to do stuff all the time, so I had to jump in and out of there. But I got to see a lot of it.
Yeah. I never thought I would see Star Fox being used to do something like that, really.
Well, it's not something that was easily done as a marathon, and that's why they used the achievement system.
Aha. Yeah, because obviously, since Adventures was set up like Legend of Zelda, there were a few side quests, obviously.
Right.
So they obviously could not do all those and keep.
No, they did those. They were just for extra points.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and so what they ended up getting everything done in that they did all the things. They got all the cheat tokens. They got they played with Tricky and his ball or whatever, and all the other little bitty things that you can do in Adventures that is not required to beat the game.
Imagine all the other stuff they could have added if the game development hadn't been interrupted.
Well, not too much. A lot of the stuff that they changed at the end were more technical things with possibly a significantly different ending. But the bulk of the game, the meat of the game, did not change all that much since the very beginning, since Dinosaur Planet. because you can look at the Dinosaur Planet videos, and they show areas and cutscenes that are almost identical, with the exception of the change in the character and the change in the graphical quality. The animations are almost identical.
Uh-huh.
So, there you go.
Despite what some people may say about Star Fox Adventures, I truly believe it's a gem of a game.
It is pretty good. It certainly satisfied me as an adventure game. A bit quirky, and you know, it had a really rough ramp as far as the difficulty. Normally they ramp you up, you know, from very easy to very hard, and the slope of difficulty is fairly smooth. In Star Fox Adventures, it's very noticeable that the ramp is not smooth. There are huge dips and hills and valleys in that curve.
Yeah.
Especially the test of fear. Like, it's a simple concept, but I actually had to do that like 30 times the first time.
I think that's the Star Fox fan's worst nightmare, as the name of the test implies. I could not get... It took me so long to beat that test the first time I ever played it. I was pulling my hair out at a few points.
Yeah. I remember the first time I was playing through it was I was taking a road trip, you know, because we had a van that had a TV in it, and we would always bring our video game system and plug it in.
We used to have one of those.
And I played, like, there was just one day during the trip, and I was like, okay, I got to the thing. Now I need to do this thing. And I just remember sitting there in the car, and my brother and sister were watching me and just doing that test over and over again. It probably didn't help that I was in a car, right? Because it could have been bumpy or whatever. Usually I don't have a problem, but that's kind of a twitch thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, actually, I think they managed to do it the first time, which makes me feel really bad.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's go on to the next bit of news.
Which is
that is yours.
Oh, yeah, sorry. See, you finished the fan art styling project and began to do the list transition.
Yes.
Added favorites, notes more discreet, sorry.
Yeah.
Less intrusive descriptions of the site origin. Color and style indicate information rather than just words.
Yeah, so you've seen the new style for the fan art.
Yeah.
And what do you think of it? Or you know what? Before you tell me what you think of it, tell me if you can think off the top of your head all the new features of it. I mean, without looking at the list there.
Let me think. You may. I guess you kind of caught me at a bad moment right there.
Oh, you're having a brain hiccup there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me seed your knowledge. The star.
Yes.
What does the star indicate?
Star indicates. Yeah, personal favorites. That should have been a given.
Yes, my personal favorites. Okay. How did I indicate the new fan art? That one would be a bit tricky because you'd have to see the actual list.
Either red or it's something red or pink across
That's
the
right.
bar.
It's pink. The background is pink.
Uh-huh.
I also put that little exclamation point icon in there, and that's my favorite feature is the exclamation point icon, because it tells you that there's a warning, but it doesn't take up space with the actual warning. You can just hover over it if you want to see what the warning is.
Like say there's a certain amount of violence in the picture, right?
Exactly. And I also standardized the warnings so that every fan art, pretty much, if it, I made up a list of all the different types of warnings that typically occur, and I standardized them to all say the same thing. So when I say a given thing, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So that took a while because I had to read every single one of them. Look at every single fan art again.
Yeah. Didn't you? If you had some help with this, it wouldn't be as bad, right?
No, but you know what? The problem is that no one's quite as fast as I am.
Yeah. I've learned that the hard way, because you used to manage to get so much stuff that would take me like years to get done because I'm just not as well motivated. I don't doubt I can. Sorry, tongue twister. I don't doubt that I can do this stuff. It's just that I lack the initiative that you have.
Yes. My curse, right? The unusual ability to focus.
See.
with regard to like the warnings, actually, I had to do that all by myself because you need a single person to have a standardized. I mean, my measure needs to be standardized. The only other way that other people would know like what warning to put is if they also looked at every single fan art, which would defeat the purpose of splitting the fan art up.
Yeah.
But for other parts like the 3D transition, removing the fan art that was 3D from the traditional list and moving it into its own list, that could have easily been broken up. But the problem is that, and I actually asked someone to do it, and they agreed to do it. But in the time that they, I guess, started working on it, I was done. Because I just couldn't stand for it to be sitting there unfinished. So like there was a whole week when I got back here from back home, and I just sat down and I did all that fan art work.
All right.
And I holed up in my apartment. Literally, I did not go outside. And did all this stuff
Just sitting in a little cave and taking care of everything, right?
Exactly. I gotta watch out for when I do that because it's dangerous. I keep myself fed or whatever, but I lack all human contact and all context. I don't watch the news, so I don't hear if anything important happens either.
Yeah, that's sort of the life of an average video gamer, basically. So you're not alone.
All right. Well, anyways, I also, as you said, with the color to indicate the site origin. So when it's a DeviantArt site, I have a border that's just green, rather than saying, "Hey, it's from DeviantArt or Sheezyart or For Affinity or FanArt Central or some other personal site." Right? There's a different color for each one of those, but it's a color. You don't have to actually take up space with words, you see. Mm-hmm. So this design process makes it look a lot cleaner and a lot easier to understand without the wordiness that was the problem earlier. Yeah. Because I was just running out of room, right?
Right.
So now it's beautiful. I love it. Let's see. All right, the next thing, the Krystal Archive celebrated its 4th birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, no, wait, you can't sing that. You cannot sing that. Because anytime someone sings that song in a public format, you have to pay licensing to the people who own the song.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
It's okay. I stopped you. And I honestly don't think that they're listening to the Krystal Archive podcast. But you know what? Why take the risk? We're happy that Krystal's website, my website, the Krystal Archive, has had a good run and will continue to have a good run for the foreseeable future.
Let's hope so. Girl, if it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't be here where I am now.
Yeah, same here, actually. Huh. Let me say, I won't get into it, but it was a very weird set of unusual circumstances that brought me to where I am today. So, interesting.
For me, it was just looking through iTunes. I just looked up Star Fox on iTunes. That's it. Yeah,
you had you had it easier than I did in regard to all this. You just had to listen. I had to make it. All right, next.
Okay. Sorry, my notes got messed up. This will take a second.
We have show notes. We are prepared.
Mm-hmm. You tested the new fan art system that appeared since last update, and it worked beautifully.
Yes. I got I built the scripts, to do this new fan art system. And I was building them up as I was running through the fan art. So I made sure it would work for the next update. And then finally, when I did the update, I decided to do it that way. With all these, I wrote a bunch of scripts that help behind the scenes, like a single script that when I can just run it on a list and it will tell me which fan arts have gone missing, and which ones haven't. And then there's another script that turns a list of links into a list that I can use to turn into another list of stuff I can post on the site. Things that I have other scripts that sort the art and sort it exactly the way I want it. All these other scripts, and the most complicated one was a script that actually you give it like an HTML link to the DeviantArt page, and not only will it pull out of the DeviantArt page like the title of the art and the artist name and the link to the page, it can also pull out the link to the image itself and then download that image into a folder that is named after the artist. So
That's
it basically
pretty interesting.
It does all of the it can actually do the whole process of downloading fan art into my collection automatically, which was another big time consumer that is now virtually gone because I wrote a script to do it.
Huh.
You'd be surprised what you can write a script for once you learn that there is a program that lets you from a program, it will let you get web pages off the internet and download images.
I
Once
wonder if you
do
can
that,
make money off making stuff like this.
Huh?
I wonder if you could make money off of making stuff like this.
I'm trying to get a job. Not in this field necessarily. I wouldn't mind doing web design, but as everyone knows, I've been studying to become a game programmer, and that's where I'm going to look first is the game companies. But I don't mind doing web design. I like web design as a hobby, so I wouldn't.
It's better
mind
to be a jack of all trades. That way, if something were to happen and you can't get the job you want, you have skills in other areas.
Exactly, and I have.
That's what I do with my Photoshop work. I make sure they can be applied in many different areas.
Right. So the next news item is I finally finished the actual transition and separation of the 3D and traditional art. And I finished adding the favorites, and I finished all the behind-the-scenes script work, which, it took several days, and a lot of stuff happened in between. So I actually made multiple posts about it, and I'm just wanted to say, that I had actually finished everything that I had set out to do. Each one of those tasks required me to go through all of the fan arts at least once. And so, yeah, that's why it took so long. Because there's over like 5,000 fan arts now. So, yeah. Lots of work.
Didn't it get to 9,000 at one point?
No, it was never over 9,000.
It's over 9,000!
Yeah! What, 9,000? Yes, one of my first memes... of course, all your base came first, but whatever. So that's So fan art done. I believe I said in the site actually that underneath there I said, you know what? It's like on my final update I said all favorites, warnings, mods completed on all lists. There should be no more fan art updates until I add new fan art, which will probably be in a few weeks. I said, and then I put an ellipsis, and then it says, I am so tired of looking at fan art. And I ended it there. And I haven't looked at fan art at all since then, actually.
Wow.
So, I see it around, but I wasn't looking for fan art in terms of the lists, right?
Right.
So I got to do that soon because it's starting to catch up again. All right, so that's all I've got to say about the fan art, thankfully.
All right. Next news item, I presume?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, this was an interesting one. Ayano, am I saying that correctly?
I believe so.
She created that... she created that fursuit. And that looks amazing. It looks a lot like Krystal. I think the head's a little off, but...
The head's off? What's wrong with her head? It's like exactly like her head.
No, I mean, it looks a little small. That's just me. That's just me, and that's it. I mean...
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Right, because remember, an actual human girl's face has to fit inside there, and it wouldn't really match up if it was actual Krystal size.
Yeah, good point.
But I like the new realism because, it's like... otherwise her face proportions are almost exact.
Yeah. When I first looked at it, I was kind of, I thought it looked kind of weird, but then after a little while, after looking at it for a while, I admit that this was a really nice piece of work. Obviously, a lot of work and detail went into this.
Indeed, I said, as part of researching Krystal cosplays as well as just being a furry, I've educated myself in regard to like how these suits are made and stuff. Not that I'm going to be wearing one anytime soon, but
Same exact thing,
I
yeah.
find the creation process interesting because it's certainly a lot of work that goes into them. And from what I can see, or from what I could tell from just looking at the picture, it's what's called the mask is the mask plus the full body suit is there's a special word for this type of cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look it up here.
Yeah.
It is called Kigurumi, or Kigurumi. It's basically, it's mostly like Japanese cosplay, like that's the Japanese word for it.
Uh-huh.
But like in practical use, it's a more descriptive term of when you use what Ayano used here,
Uh-huh.
which is a hard plastic mask over the face rather than a fur-based mask like most fursuits.
Yeah.
And then using a full body fabric suit that is, relatively skin tight versus a non-skin tight fursuit. Also, some interesting details here. She was using furred cloth. Obviously, it's fur, full body fur cloth here, but it's not like the cloth used in other fursuits, which is typically like 1 inch long fur everywhere.
Yeah.
This appears to be like a centimeter long fur, which actually is much cleaner and more realistic looking compared to
These big
to her
floofy
actual
ones, right?
3D image, huh?
Wait, no, sorry, I messed up there. Sorry.
Okay. So otherwise she got all the details right, including in a very realistic staff. I mean, it's like exactly identical to the staff she has.
It'd be cool if they could make one that's actually made out of like metal and such.
I know a guy who's working on one, actually.
Really?
Or he's planning to work on one. I've talked to him, and he said he wants to make it. I suggested a technique for building one, but you know what? That's the thing. I don't actually know how Ayano got that staff. I need to find out. I have a way to find out, which I'll look into. But for now, I don't have that information.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and she also had the shoulder pads there, which quite simply are hard to get to attach because they're not really attached to anything.
Yeah.
Like if you look at her model in the game, they're not attached to anything.
Yeah, so I've always wondered that. Now that I think about it, I mean, how do they stay on there?
It's magic. But yeah, she's got full realistic arm gauntlets and anklets and the shoulder pads and the neck thing, and her face is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Her tail, which you can't see in a lot of the pictures, is not, in my personal opinion, is not the best I've seen, but it's respectable. I think that's the next big leap in Krystal cosplay technology is a highly realistic tail.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I mean, I think this is probably one of my favorite looking Krystal cosplays. Next to that, I can't remember. Cat the Leopardess is one.
She was the second. She did a body paint version, and she used a hard mask that was actually glued onto her face.
Yeah, I remember she had a
prosthetic.
bad incident with that.
Well, yeah, difficulty getting it off. And also the glue didn't come off for a couple of days, as she mentioned during the interview. But you know what? She's kind of used to that sort of thing, I guess. Like not like being in different costumes for extended periods of time, because she does. She's like a model or something, in addition to going to furry conventions.
Aha.
So yeah. I actually have some more details about Ayano's suit, but I'm going to save those for later.
Okay.
The next date was I released my very second Krystal fan film ever, which you'd think I'd do more than that, but apparently I'm just too busy. I made A Girl Like That for the Krystal fan film.
Mm-hmm.
You seen that one?
I saw that one. The little effect you do at the very end, that was amazing.
Yeah, and it took a long time too. I was using a per image mask over video. There's other programs that do it easier, but since I was limited with what program I could use, I actually had to Photoshop the areas I wanted to disappear and made them white, and then take the ones that I wanted to stay and made them black, and I used that as an image mask over the actual video. but I actually had to cut the video into individual frames and apply that filter to every single frame.
Sounds complicated.
And then I had to turn that back into a video with a video behind it, so that the videos behind it are the ones you can see through the columns.
Mm-hmm.
And compiled it all together and stuck it in my fan film, and it was great. And everybody loved it.
Because it's just a really neat
effect.
effect with shots like that.
Yeah. I'm really happy with it. The only problem I had with the fan film was the chorus. The chorus was difficult to do because it's just not... when he's singing in there with the lyrics, they don't really match up to the beats well. So I kind of had to switch between transitioning images at the beats to transitioning images when he said something.
Yeah, you do a good job at it, so you managed to make it work.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one who really noticed because, I'm obsessive about detail.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the song A Girl Like That by Lucas Prada. I've heard that song years ago, and I was like, yeah, it would make a pretty cool Krystal fan film, but I never got around to doing it until recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it turned out really well. I don't think I'm going to do another Krystal fan film until we get some new Krystal imagery with a new game or something.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's basically blocking the creativity with videos like that, because you've always seen these videos over and over.
We've already seen them like 100 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless we can get that Adventures cheat working where you can replace Fox with Krystal.
That's one of my main reasons for wanting it, is to get the video.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, like I see fan films today, and unless they're just like really awesome, or they're doing something really different, like that special effect or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it takes a lot to really impress me because I've seen all the images so many times.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? For other people who are just seeing, a given fan film for the first time, it probably doesn't have that negative effect on them. So
yeah.
So there you go. So that's why I'm going to keep doing the new fan films as it goes.
Okay.
Now, on our next news item, we had a very important message to present on the Krystal Archive. It's very, very important.
Yes, it is.
Would you like to comment on that, sir?
Just one thing I want to say. That was awesome.
So apparently, there's a Swedish company that did this promotion. It was related to some kind of fee or tax or something.
It's paying for your broadcast.
They basically made this really epic video about like the nature of knowledge and how can we trust the information we have and all this other, and they just really this is like you're expecting to see this thing that's going to reveal and it's going to change the world, right?
Right.
And she holds up a picture and it's Krystal's face, right?
Right.
and it's one of those things where they actually take a picture you upload. You can use any image you want, preferably clean, right?
Yeah.
And you can actually it will actually encode the image into the video. I've actually done it with I've done it with my brother, and I've seen it done with some of my classmates. It's pretty cool, but I thought that would be interesting. I mean, it's almost like April Fool's quality.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't wait that long.
All right. And the thing is, still, when I first watched that video, I couldn't have watched it at a worse time. I was sitting I had my laptop with me. I was sitting in a kitchen chair eating, and the thing is, I was just eating I had the macaroni in my mouth. I saw it. I about fell out of my chair. And I had a bunch of food in my mouth.
Did you blow chunks of macaroni all over the place?
I almost did. I'm glad I didn't, because I would have gotten it all over my computer. I couldn't have seen that at probably the worst time, especially because there was other people in the room.
Oh, did they say what's going on or whatever?
Someone said that, and I just moved the computer screen out of the way. I'm like, oh, nothing at all.
So it's pretty cool. I actually thought about taking that video and screen recording it, and then using multiple different images of Krystal into different scenes, and then by cutting the video up and combining them back into a single video.
Yeah.
And I might do that, but by now the effect is achieved, so...
Yeah, so doing it again wouldn't be as good.
Exactly. But that's I just saw that like yesterday, and someone showed me that. And it's like, okay, I have to do this for Krystal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'm sorry, I've spoiled something for you, but actually we haven't spoiled it entirely. Just go see the video. It's one of the most recent posts, and it's it is surprising and important, very important. And now we get to the news that's about to happen, stuff that's on the horizon with regard to the Krystal Archive. So a guy named Basemass314, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, he told me, he was sending me some images of Ayano's fursuit, and he said that, by the way, the guy who posted these images mentioned that he was going to do a photo shoot with Ayano in the next week.
Really?
And so I looked it up, and the guy's name is Ken Kingshow. He's the creator of the Ando Rozan comics, which is a furry cybernetics comic, which I haven't yet gotten a chance to read, but
I've never heard of it.
it's fairly old actually. But yeah, I've never read it either. But I'm a big fan of cybernetics, so I don't know. I'll probably have a look into it. Anyway,
Ought to be interesting.
yeah. So he said he was doing a photo shoot with Ayano with this suit, and so I found a way to contact him, and I chatted with him a while, and he's like, yeah. And so we talked for like an hour about Ayano and how her suit worked and how she made it, and about himself, of course, too, because my interest. So I actually have the chat transcript here, and Star Fox Runner doesn't have this, so I'm going to just say things as I read through here. It's not very long. I'm not going to read the whole transcript.
I'll just be a good little boy and sit here.
Oh, okay. So I asked him, like, how does he know Ayano, and how did he end up doing a shoot? And he's like, oh yeah, well, she's a friend of mine. We're both Japanese, and we go to the fur cons together, along with other Japanese people. And so he's known her for a long time, right? And seen her in other suits as well, her Renamont suit and a Mithra and all that. So I told him about the site and like what I was doing with the Krystal Archive. It's like, oh yeah, I've seen this site. It's pretty cool, And I showed him the site, the page for Ayano's suit, and about all the pictures I have and stuff like that. He said that Ayano is kind of shy, I guess. She doesn't really want to be too high profile within the furry fandom right now, I guess. She just wants to costume. Right, but yeah, my comment was too late, LOL, because she dressed up as Krystal. Now there's no way she can stop being big or whatever. But anyways, he said that I was correct, that it was a Zentai bodysuit and with the plastic facial mask. He said that the mask was made by a Japanese artist named Yamanetoka, who makes a lot of plastic figurines and masks. And he said it was made out of FRP plastic, which is fiberglass reinforced.
Fiberglass?
Plastic. Yeah.
Wow.
So when they're making the mask out of plastic, they actually put fiberglass inside it, and that makes it stronger.
It seems kind of dangerous, if you ask me.
Fiberglass? Not really.
Well, whenever I've been around fiberglass working with stuff, you get that stuck in your skin. It hurts.
Oh yeah, well yeah. You wear gloves and you put it on very carefully.
Yeah.
But once it's sealed inside the plastic, it's not dangerous.
Ah, good point.
So yeah. So that's how they made the mask. And he sent me the website for the person who made it, and so I'll be posting that too when I get it. He said, let's see what else. He says that the further confusion, the furry convention where she wore the suit this year, was just the debut of the suit, and that she plans to wear the suit in the future at other places, and possibly at the same FurCon next year. So that's cool, because other than Cat the Leopardess, that'll be the only other fursuit that we know of, or cosplay of Krystal we know of, that's been worn more than once.
What if they were to meet each other in the same convention?
Oh, they'd have to have a fight to the death, I'm sure. So anyway, I doubt that. They'll probably give each other a hug, because they're both friends through creativity, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they've both been through the same things, right?
Right.
So, so they probably they would, I mean, I know that Cat the Leopardess has a high degree of respect for Ayano. I mean, Cat the Leopardess was the one who told me about Ayano in the first place.
Oh.
And that she felt really bad for Ayano, because one of her previous fursuits at another convention was largely disdained. You know, people hated it, and they disrespected Ayano for it, which is just totally uncalled for.
Exactly.
So, you know, because they said it wasn't furry enough, right?
Oh, that's just rude.
Yeah. I mean, it was a similar style. It was the Kegurumi, or however you pronounce it, style. It was, yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's it was a thin, skin-tight suit with a plastic mask, and everybody is used to fursuits that have, you know, fur on them. So she looked more like an anime character to them, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want that, your kind here," or whatever.
Oh,
so,
man.
But you know what? Cat the Leopardess was supportive of her even then, and now those guys who were insulting her will have to eat their words, because she's pulled off one of the most successful fursuits ever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, I asked him if he wouldn't mind doing a video for us, because we have so little video of the suit. We just have her walking through the fursuit parade.
Yeah, I saw a part of that.
Yeah, and he said he'll try. So we might be getting a video soon.
That'll be good.
He said that she has, of her previous fursuits or costumes, she's done Mia, a pink cat from a Japanese anime, which is the one that she was insulted over.
Oh.
She's done Renamon. She's done Mrs. Hudson from Sherlock Hound, Japanese anime.
A friend of mine by the name of Absoluticus91 introduced me into that.
Yeah, I knew I'd seen it recently at some point, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our mutual friend.
Go. Exactly. And she's also done, as I mentioned on the site, Mithra from Final Fantasy Online, which I did manage to find a couple of pictures of her in her Renamon suit, which was pretty good. Not as good as the Krystal one, I must say, but pretty good, considering some of the Renamon suits I've seen. Let's see, what else here? What else did he say? I think I'm scheduled. Oh, yeah. So we talked about anime and the different characters and the whole process of getting the pictures for the site and stuff of her, you know, because there's so many pictures of her because she was so popular, right?
Right.
And he's like, well, you want to use mine? I mean, there's like 4 more that you don't have in your gallery. I'm like, yeah, but I've already got like 40 of them, and I just wonder if like people really care that much anymore. There's so many pictures. And he's like, yeah, I understand, but a video would be good.
Yeah.
And then he revealed some new stuff, right?
Right.
He said that Ayano is working or going to work on a jumpsuit for Krystal, the assault version.
Oh, that'll be cool.
And I was like, yes. I said, nothing against her adventure suit, but I personally prefer the assault suit.
Okay, ADHD moment. It involves the assault. It involves the assault suit. There's an area in Star Fox Command where when you first meet up with her in Sector Z, when she's wearing when she's using the Cornerian fighter, she has a jacket and suit similar to Fox and Falco's, and I kind of like that one better. It's more in keeping with the team's style. I sort of like that type of, get-up better.
Oh, well, yeah, but within the realm of the two, main styles, I agree. I like the more rogue look, as
Yeah.
you say. But you know what? We haven't really seen that in full quality yet, so
Yeah.
we'll see. He said, I asked him about like how he got the tattoos on there, because she actually has all the tattoos where they're supposed to be on the suit.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. You're right.
So what happened? He said that they were both made of the same fabric but different color, and what she did was cut out the parts that were going to be the tattoo and sewed in the white fur in that area so it wouldn't stick out, right?
Right.
So it's like there's literally attached to the skin of the suit. And let's see, we talked about a few other. Oh, he says he says she suffered a slight wardrobe malfunction during the parade.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I was like, whoops, It's like, I hope there weren't any bits, He said, yeah. He said, no, there's no details inside, and I said, good,
Huh.
Because there's no point in that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to be wearing the suit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The suit over the suit, you know what I mean?
Right.
I asked what type of material it was because it looked thicker than usual. He said it was a custom-made suit of furred cloth.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. And he said it's furred cloth, but it's also stretchable too, which is unusual. Like most fursuits are just totally loose,
Yeah.
or they're tight. I mean, but they're not. They're like padded to be the size of the padding inside, not skin tight like this one was. Let's see what else.
Mm-hmm.
He says he's going to look up for me the exact name of the material later because he didn't have it offhand. And then I started asking him about his effort with the cybernetics and stuff. I said, yeah, that's awesome stuff, man, because I'm a big, he's the originator of the term anthroid, as it turns out.
Anthroid.
Yes. I told him I'm a big fan.
Huh.
Of that style, not necessarily his work, not because I wouldn't be, but I just haven't seen it. And I talked to him about various issues with making suits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the end, and I had to go.
Okay.
So, interesting conversation. I've got lots to add to the site.
I'll bet.
So that's all I've got to say. New news about Ayano. I do have this other thing. Rabbit in the Moon, who I talked to originally, because I've known about her for a while. She's the first person I've heard of who does this style of fursuit, and she's pretty well known for it in this country because she's American, but she's following that Japanese style. She's the first one I ever heard of, and she does a pretty good job with them. And so I asked her, because I figured, it's the same style, she might know something about it. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's Ayano. And she helped me originally figure out, like, who this person was when we didn't know her name.
Uh-huh.
And then since then, we've been talking on and off about, like, the suit and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's mentioned to me that she's going to attempt to do a Krystal fursuit of that style as well. But it might be a while. But
Okay.
I thought that was good news that we have more effort now, even more effort to make new cosplays, which is great because previously we just had a complete and utter lack of cosplaying for an absurdly popular character. There's just no reason for it.
Yeah.
So now it's getting back to normal, I guess, or what should have been normal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I've never really before I ever really found Star Fox Online, I never really knew a lot of this stuff existed. I mean, outside my little bubble in this hick town in the middle of nowhere, I didn't know much about, like, fursuiting, fur cons and all that stuff. It's like I've been opened up to a whole new world, and that once I'm out on my own and able to really do more of what I want, I would love to go to... I probably would never fursuit, but I would love to go to one of these conventions just to see what it's like.
Yeah. And I've been to a fur convention.
Rainforest, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 years ago. I'm probably going to go to this next one actually, and that's something I should mention. I'm probably going to go to the one this year, which I believe is in September.
Okay.
Because it turns out their theme for this year is going into space.
Oh.
Yes. So I expect to see quite a few Star Fox related cosplayers there.
That'll be good.
Yes, and I'm going to. I'm actually the guy who mentioned that to me. Who's also his name is Richard L. I've talked about him on the site. He's the one who's been sending me tons and tons of pictures of Krystal, of Ayano, in her fursuit, and so he's actually going to go to that probably, and so we're going to probably meet up and go together and hang out because we're both Star Fox fans and Krystal fans, and
Aha.
and yeah, so that's the plan anyway. I'm actually going to try and meet up with him sometime in a couple of months, or a month or two, just to hang out and talk because he's coming up here for the Winter Olympics or something.
Oh, at Vancouver?
Yeah, on the way there,
Aha.
So
Mario
yeah,
and
so that's
Sonic
going to be
comes to
some
mind.
yeah.
Hmm?
So oh, and another thing I wanted to say was like when I first became a furry, I was like, oh yeah, well, I probably never. I mean, the fursuits are interesting, but I probably would never wear one, and or I think I even said like I'd probably never go to a furry convention or whatever,
Yeah.
And you know what? Things change. I went to a furry convention to see how it was, and I don't know like if it's really my thing. I don't mind going to them. Like I've talked at length about my experience with that furry convention.
Yeah.
And maybe I just went to one that was too small or too big, or I didn't know enough people, or whatever. I'm certainly going to try again, but social situations are not my forte particularly. Not that I mind them. So
Yeah.
we'll see with that. But with regard to the fursuit, I was like, oh yeah, definitely. I probably will never wear one. It's like now I've given it some thought, and you know what? It's not. Like the most people, the reason why they wear a fursuit is to express some inner meaning, or to like inner version of themselves, or to have the opportunity to be someone else for an afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And those things don't really jive with me particularly because I'm just like so weird in the way my brain works.
Yeah.
But what does jive with me is the technical difficulty and the challenge of building certain things. And I actually think that probably I will attempt to build fursuits in the future, like when I actually have money, right?
Yeah.
For the technical challenge to see what I can achieve in terms of animatronics, in terms of augmented reality,
Yeah.
and other ideas.
Hey, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
Most furries have a fursona. Do you have one?
I don't actually. That's even from the very beginning. I didn't have a fursona because, like even internally, I don't consider myself really. I don't think about myself that way. Like a lot of furries can think of themselves in terms of either a literal character of another species, or like they use their character, they use the species attributes to augment how they really think. Like, for instance, someone who chooses a cat fursona might just be someone who likes to do things that cats do or act like cats.
Just have fun.
I'm gonna be very highly speciest here and say that cats are all prissy and don't like to be messed with, and kind of keep to themselves, but also know how to fight or something like that.
Yeah.
You take those stereotypical attributes of the species. A fox is typically considered to be wise and clever
Or wily.
Right.
Yeah.
So but me personally, like internally, I don't even really think of myself as a human, and that's not to say I think of myself as an animal either. I think of myself as a culmination of the factual knowledge that I have.
Aha.
So, like, I have a very difficult time even visualizing myself, my image in my head, because when I think about myself, I'm thinking about what I believe, what I think, what I know, rather than what I look like.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really apply.
Yeah. Me personally,
Yeah.
just for fun, because I just really because I was experimenting around with how furry I am. I came up with a fursona for myself. I think I've mentioned this to you before in one of our chats.
Refresh my memory.
Well, mainly I use him as a role-playing character on Star Fox Online. I tend to dabble at that sometimes.
Yeah.
And as the more I thought about it, I basically created a persona of myself.
Which is what species?
A fox. Yeah, very
of course.
Creative. I named him Dash Rylan because technically Dash is a play on my screen name, Star Fox Runner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rylan is just and was something
every time
else
someone suggests, every time someone suggests, oh, I'm going to make a persona, the first thing I tell them is like, don't make it a fox, okay? Because everyone chooses fox, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
I even went as far as a friend of mine, a very close, good friend of mine, Catwings30. I commissioned her to do an image of Dash, and if anyone listening to this wants to see it, it's on her profile on DeviantArt.com. Just look at Catwings30's gallery, and you will find a picture of Dash in her gallery somewhere. And by the way, she is a good artist and cosplayer, so if you want to take a look at just her in general, go ahead and stop by and comment on her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. That's I guess that's enough for the furry-related discussion for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you take the next two together? They're pretty brief.
In Star Fox news?
No, the new news for Krystal Archive.
Oh, sorry, I'm a little...
After Rabbit in the Moon.
All right.
That's what we were talking about.
Krystal fan films still need to be posted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of new art left to put up, because even you said yourself, you stopped looking at fan art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have been keeping track of the fan films. Every week or so, I look through the new the YouTube, right, for the new fan films. And I've just been keeping a list of them, and I just haven't had a chance to go through them and edit them together to make them posts.
Understandable.
I'll just do it all at once at some point.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yeah, I got a lot of email to catch up with. I've caught up with most of the people asking questions, right? But the people who say, I want you to post this as a wallpaper, I can think of one person in particular who wanted me to post a wallpaper. Who was that?
Hey, don't rub it in, buddy. I know you're busy.
It was Star Fox Runner. He sent me a bunch of wallpapers, and I still haven't had a chance to put them up.
I dabble at it, so it's just so I can test my Photoshop skills.
Yeah. So we're going to put those up, not only on the Krystal Archive, but probably on Star Fox Online too. I've also got some other wallpapers from other people and other files that I need to post and fan fictions to go through. Okay. Speaking of fan fiction, some people sent me some fanfics, and you know what? I haven't gotten the reviews back from the previous list of fanfics they sent me. My reviewers haven't gotten back to me in months. I haven't heard from them at all.
Huh.
So we might need some new reviewers soon. Any volunteers out there? Anybody? If you're interested, email me. Standard address, mrkrystal@gmail.com.
I got some free time on my hands now and then. If you wanted me to, I could do it.
Okay.
And if I couldn't get it done for you, I would tell you really quick.
Well, we'll work something out after we're finished recording.
Okay.
Now, this is the stuff that we're going to have a lot of discussion about. Let's take all three of the next topics together.
Okay.
And you take it away.
Star Fox News.
No.
Oh, no. I'm getting a little overeager, aren't I?
Yes. The three items at the end of the new news. Look, we talked about this.
Okay. Sorry. This will take a little bit.
That's right. They're not there for you. Remember, I wrote them down.
Okay.
I wrote them down, but you didn't. That's right. This is in my version, but it's not in his. That's why.
Okay.
The news that I'm talking about is the Nintendo Media Summit, GDC, and E3.
Oh, yeah. I was the first one to bring this up on Star Fox Online. I should have known this. Dang it.
All right. Well, start us off with the Media Summit. What is it? When is it? And what's going on?
Apparently, Nintendo is going to be hosting a Media Summit at the end of this month, February 24th or 25th, I believe. And it's also noteworthy to note, pardon the pun, that they're not going to have a keynote speech at Game Developers Conference this year. Could the Media Summit have anything to do with that? Maybe not.
What's the kind of speculation we've heard from this?
Some people believe that they're going to be that they might be revealing new stuff, and there's a lot high speculation that they're going to talk about Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Metroid Other M, two highly anticipated titles that I'm really looking forward to. I am a major Metroid fan. I love that franchise.
As am I. I've heard speculation about a possible new system announcement or a system update, which, since the DSi XL isn't even out yet,
yeah,
it probably means it's not a portable, which means it's probably the Wii. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put a prediction out there, because I've come across some wires connect here and there on the internet, and I'm thinking the possible announcement is going to be a Wii with a hard drive and digital distribution of full titles, not just WiiWare, but like actual buy it in the store titles distribution.
Oh, like Xbox Live does, right?
Well, Xbox Live doesn't quite do that, but they have the ability to download the disc onto the hard drive, I believe.
Aha.
But
like
they do,
copy?
yeah, they have a lot of, but I mean, Xbox Live is basically like WiiWare, you know, in terms of the games, not necessarily in terms of what you can do with it, but in terms of the games.
Yeah.
They're smaller games, you know, that cost like $5, $15 or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're not, you know, the full. You wouldn't be able to download Halo 3 on Xbox Live.
Well, obviously, right? Yes. I mean, that would be awesome,
right. But see, that's what my prediction is. My prediction is they're going to release a Wii with a hard drive or a hard drive attachment, and that they're going to start looking into digital distribution of all titles, not just downloadable titles.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Oh, small ADHD moment, and I don't think you know about this either. This is just something I'm bringing to the table. Speaking of Xbox Live, you know how you can watch movies and TV shows on there now?
Yeah.
Nintendo seems to have made a deal with Netflix. You can now it's going to be starting this summer. You can now stream Netflix right onto your Wii.
Yeah, so now it's finally the last system that did not have the support yet. Now it does. Now it will have support for that.
This would be pretty nice, actually, for the people that own Netflix, at least.
Yeah, I'm not one of them, so I can't really comment much on it. But for those who are, you know, I know a lot of people were looking forward to this.
Yeah, it'd be a real change. Nintendo is starting to, when it comes to digital distribution of media, Nintendo's starting to catch up. Not that they catch up with anything, but...
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing with Nintendo. Like when they're the ones who start a technology and they invent a technology or make a technology like revolutionary,
yes,
they do it really well. That's, you know, they were the revolutionaries in the Wii's remote. They were, you know, everyone's copying them and they're not as good.
Yeah, and the same thing with the Rumble Pack with Star Fox 64. After that, the whole thing became an industry standard.
And they did it really well, you see. Uh-huh. They did really well with other things, like their original NES controller. They were the ones who invented the D-pad.
Yeah. Then they created the shoulder buttons on the Super Nintendo.
Right. So they when they invent something and they actually are the first to market with, you know, a given technology, they do really well with it. But when they're the second to market with the technology, such as online play and video graphics ability, like, you know, whatever, like you know, HD versus standard definition. Yeah, they tend to be a lot slower in comparison.
Yeah,
to other systems.
You're right.
Which
about that.
Personally, I'm willing to take. You know, I'm willing to take secondhand of common technologies to get really good, unusual technologies.
Yep.
But that's just the way it is. So probably by the next Wii, whatever it is, the next version of the Nintendo console, they'll probably have a fully fledged online system that'll work just fine, just as good as or better than, you know, whatever Xbox and PlayStation 3 offers.
Yeah. Well, thing is, there's only one complaint I ever had with Nintendo. I mean, I've always loved their games. I always will. But because of their decision to, you know, not add HD quality to the system, which made it cheaper, which I can understand because they were going for the casual market, you miss out on a lot of games that some people said were really good, like for the Xbox, that were released for Xbox and PS3. But now that I think about it, most of the console games that I look for are available on PC, like Team Fortress 2, The Orange Box, Dead Space, all that stuff. I would love to play those, but I could easily get those for PC, so no use to going out to blow all my cash on an Xbox or a PS3.
Yeah, and again, as far as the HD goes, HD would be nice, And I'm sure they'll probably have it in the next version of their console, because now, unlike when they launched the Wii, now most people do have an HD TV, which wasn't true.
It's become pretty much standard.
When the Wii was launched. But the problem is that, there's all kinds of problems with HD, not the least of which is that if you have HD content, you pretty much have to also have a massively higher powered machine to be worth creating those graphics.
Yes.
Because, right now, like, we could have people can run games, the Wii games and GameCube games on a Wii emulator, and they can run them in HD just fine.
Yeah.
But just because you run in HD doesn't make the polygon count better, or it doesn't
Exactly.
add more visual effects. And so when you add HD, you have to add a whole bunch more than just HD.
Yeah.
You have to have large system changes, and they weren't ready to do that because they were focusing on the Wiimote, which thankfully was very successful.
Yeah, all I need to do is just blend the two together in the next generation. Like right now,
Exactly.
I'm willing to wait. I mean, Nintendo they're doing a good job right now, and they're bringing out their big guns with Super Mario Galaxy and Metroid Other M. So I don't think they need to worry about that at all for the time being. But once the next generation comes around, they need to change, or I don't think they're going to do very well.
Yeah, they will definitely change that aspect of it. If they don't announce a Wii, an upgrade to Wii for HD. But honestly, I don't. I have serious doubts that they would actually do just an updated Wii to HD, because again, to get practical HD, you need to update more than just the graphics card. You need to update the whole system to handle a bunch more, or it's not really worth it, other than, it looks slightly nicer, but it's exactly the same.
Yeah, if they were to do that, they might as well release a whole new console, and it's just not time for that yet.
And I think it might be. I mean, the Wii is still experiencing a massive success, and for that reason, Nintendo will probably wait. But other than that fact, we're about at the time when most companies would make their initial announcement of the next system. Like they just start talking about it. It wouldn't be available, it wouldn't be playable, but they just start talking about it.
Yeah,
and
I actually remember that the Wii. I've read some things on the internet that the Wii, the initial idea and conceptualization had started back in 2001.
Oh yeah, it's real old.
Yeah, so
Nintendo thinks far in the future.
Which means, for all we know, Nintendo already has a next-generation console in the works.
Yeah, they're always working on them. They're always, as they've said in multiple occasions, as soon as they launch a given console or portable, they're already working on the next one, if not sooner.
But then you just got to imagine what's cooking in that kitchen.
Well, no one knows, because there's so many failed ideas too, or not failed ideas, but ideas that get put on the shelves.
Yeah.
For instance, the Miis, the little avatar characters that came with the Wii.
Yeah.
Those were invented back during the Game Boy era, but they didn't work out the way Miyamoto wanted, so he just shelved it.
And then he brought it back
later.
until they had the ability and technology to do it.
Exactly, and Nintendo has tons of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So. There's no telling what they have access to. There's just really no telling.
Exactly.
So that brings us to GDC, which is going to be from March 9th to 13th. I've been to the last two GDCs, but I decided not to go this year because I did not think it would be worth it compared to the potential benefit I could get by just staying here. But this year they're not going to have a keynote, as we mentioned.
But
instead, they're going to have, what are they going to have?
And this time, they're going to have the Metroid series creator Yoshio Sakamoto give a keynote.
Not a keynote.
Give a lecture at GDC 2010.
Right.
I learned this while looking around Metroid database. You mind if I read the article? I have it right here.
Okay, as long as it's not too long.
It's not too long. I'm phrasing it as it was typed. This news just came in this morning. Yoshio Sakamoto, the director of Metroid series, as well as WarioWare, will be presenting a lecture at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. His lecture, From Metroid to Tamagotchi Collection to WarioWare, different approaches for different audiences, will cover his work in the video game industry from 1982 to the present and his philosophy on game design, particularly in how he constantly challenges himself and his teams to create games that appeal to players of all kinds. His latest game is Tamagotchi Collection for the DS, where characters talk, dance, sing, dream, and was recently released in Japan. However, discount tickets are only available until the end of Thursday. GDC main conference tickets begin at $875 and go up from there. Wow. If anyone is attending, please contact us.
So there you go. I've actually talked to, because I'm at DigiPen and I'm working with lots of people with who are game programmers like me, and who are going to GDC. I've actually talked to them, and they don't know that I'm doing all this, right? They don't know about the Krystal Archive and all that.
Yeah.
But I did ask them that if they start making a big announcement, or basically I said, you know what, I might call you during the show if I see something on the news that I want recorded, if you could get me a video of it or whatever, of gameplay and stuff. And so basically if they show Star Fox or something like that, I can probably get video, and a lot of it through my friends. But we'll see what happens. But I'm more on top of it than I would be otherwise, because I don't actually have a video camera personally. So anyway, yes, that guy, the Metroid creator, is expected to talk about Metroid Other M, which will be good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Nintendo probably won't reveal too much at GDC, which is probably why they had the Media Summit on February 24th. Unless, of course, the Media Summit is to get people hyped for something they will actually have playable at GDC.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like what they did with the Wii when they announced the name of the Wii like a week before E3.
Uh-huh.
And that's just like everyone was talking about the Wii right before the show when everybody got to play it, you see.
Uh-huh.
So, and speaking of E3, on June 15th through 17th is going to be E3 2010. Lots and lots of surprises are expected.
Mm-hmm. Star Fox crosses fingers.
Well, we hope Star Fox. We know that the Legend of Zelda Wii will be available and playable, not just talked about, but playable, or at least they've said that it will be playable. If something happens, then it won't be, but they've said it will be playable. And also probably playable is Metroid Other M and Super Mario Galaxy 2. And there's lots of both speculation and indirect information that says that they're going to reveal a lot of new stuff as well that hasn't been talked about yet.
Yeah, there's one thing at that I'm hoping goes to E3 this year: the Secret Retro Studios project.
Oh yeah, we still don't know what that is. We've known about that for a year. Yeah,
I'm going around all over the internet. There's a lot, not just on Star Fox Online or Star Fox based sites. I hear like on IGN, GameSpot, a lot of people are hoping, not just speculating, hoping that this Retro Studios project is Star Fox.
And I think hope so too, because they're good at it.
Yeah, and they really proved their worth by blowing past all expectations with the Metroid Prime series. And if they were to make Star Fox, I would love to see where they would take that.
Absolutely. Okay, oh boy, lots to talk about. Now we get to your news. The news you've been wanting to say so much.
Star Fox news. Big break. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. The Star Fox Marathon that you mentioned earlier was also covered on SFO. And
Star Fox Online?
Yeah, Star Fox Online. I call it SFO. It just rolls off the tongue better. There was also recently released an interview with Dylan Cuthbert, who, as everybody know, was on the original Star Fox, worked on the original Star Fox. And according to the interview, it said he enjoyed working on Star Fox the most of any game he ever worked on. And that
at least any game that he's not currently working on of all the games in his past.
Mm-hmm. That makes I bet that makes some Star Fox fans feel good that the original creators are still giving it some love.
Yeah. Well, we've known he liked that series a long time.
Mm-hmm. But he actually but that kind of clashes with what he said when he says that he didn't want to work on a Star Fox game anytime soon.
No, well, right. But I explained that last podcast. His words were misrepresented. He said that, but he meant it in the sense that he doesn't want to work on a Star Fox game because to make a Star Fox game today, anyway, he'd have to use a really large team. It would be a large project, and right now he's enjoying working on small projects, which I can totally understand.
Mm-hmm. It's just
That's what his company's doing right now, is a couple of small games rather than
Yeah,
a large.
his company is Q Games. Am I correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, they developed Star Fox Command,
Yes.
the black sheep of the series, as everyone's calling it.
Yeah. Well, again, I think Star Fox Command is a great example of people not knowing what they actually want.
Yeah, there's
Because
plenty of things that-
technically, Star Fox Command gave people exactly what they asked for: all flight, branching stories, a deeper story, Andros, and strategy-based gameplay like they saw in Star Fox 2. It had all of that.
Yeah. Well, the thing
And
is,
yet-
I don't think we should go too much into this because through my adventures on Star Fox Online forums, a lot of people get really touchy about this. So this might be something we want to leave alone for a bit.
All right, well, I'll just say that then and leave it alone. The next thing, we posted an anime intro video from someone had made that they basically took the intro video for Full Metal Alchemist, and they just replaced all the characters with Star Fox characters and just redid the animation and the scenes. It looks
looked
pretty
really
epic.
good. That was probably one of the better, maybe not the best, but one of the better looking Star Fox fan videos I have seen in quite a long time.
And most people agree with you. I actually was like, oh, this is incredible. I was amazed when I first saw it. But then I realized, and I saw the original video, and I was like, oh, because
Huge
it's
letdown, right?
exactly the same. I mean, I knew there were some similarities because it was like a crossover. I expected some similarities, but the animator just basically copy pasted the animation onto the video and then just reanimated the characters exactly the way they were. I mean, exactly frame for frame.
Yeah.
So while I initially said, "Oh, he's a great artist because he can animate," because animation is one of the most difficult things for artists to do.
Yeah.
Turns out he probably, if he can animate, I can't tell from this video because he just copied the animation.
Yeah. There's only one complaint I had with this video. Super Macho Peppy. What the heck?
Well, because he was supposed to be representing one of the characters named Armstrong in the anime, which is a guy who used his alchemy powers to actually buff his own body.
Huh.
So usually alchemists use alchemy to do something clever, like turn oxygen into explosions, or in Ed's case, he turns anything around him into a weapon. And other people have the ability to turn people into bombs, other weird things, because they can turn one
where do they
thing
get
into
some of these ideas for animes?
well, I don't know. But anyway, Armstrong is just the strong guy in the series, and I think he's supposed to represent a British person in Japan, right?
Yeah, Armstrong. That sounds like a British name.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to represent a British person, because you can kind of tell sometimes when Japanese people are representing foreigners, because they're all just they just act differently and they think differently.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect example. So that's why. It's because the original character he was basing it off of was really strong, buff guy. So yeah. Okay, Nysut, in response to several people asking multiple times on the Star Fox Online forums for Star Fox 64 sound effects,
Which is something that we've never been able to do for a while, right?
which we said, it's not possible. We can't record them because they overlap and there's no way to, export just the data. And he says, you know what? You're just being lazy. Here's a bunch of sound effects. And he basically just recorded them in such a way that they didn't overlap.
Yeah. I spotted a few that are missing that if they did do the way he recorded them, he could probably get them. But the thing is, the only sound effects I was disappointed that were missing was that when you do boost and slow down and somersault, the sound effects when the R-Wing does those is different in space than it is on planets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing I noticed that was missing. Otherwise, he got a lot of them.
Well, he got a good portion of the important ones anyway. He didn't get any of the boss ones because the bosses all in or out. He did not get the one for the two for when your comm comes on for when your team members are talking to you.
Yeah.
And I just recorded that one real quick.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. I actually had that on my computer from another project, so I just copy those in, edit them all together, and put them on the site. And so now, it's not all of them, of course, but it's a lot of them, and they're now available on Star Fox Online.
That's really nice. I mean, I bet people have been waiting for those for a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Let's see what else here. I just added a bunch of images to the galleries. I've been going through the images I have on my hard drive, and actually I have a whole folder in my Star Fox Online folder. Where I keep all the site assets, and it's just labeled new, and it's just full of stuff I need to post on the site. It's just I haven't gotten around to it. I've got tons of stuff, and so I've actually been working on that recently, is going through and getting stuff ready to post. And that's the subject of our next news.
Oh, sorry, I was looking for something.
Okay.
The new Star Fox news.
New Star Fox news.
You're working on getting demos, ads, trailers, etc., to put on for each game online on this website, right?
Absolutely. I have a copy of almost all ads for all Star Fox games, and almost all of the trailers, and almost all of the demos.
It'd be nice to see high-quality versions of those, because every time I look on YouTube for commercials of Star Fox 64, it always looks like it was recorded off a videotape.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. A lot of them are. Even the ones I have are still the highest quality I have are not DVD quality or whatever, because most of the Star Fox games came out before we had the ability to really record stuff directly off of the TV into the computer. But now we do. So anything from the future we'll have in high quality. And also the internet itself did not have the ability to transmit super high large files.
Yeah.
So now we do. So that'll also make it easier for us to get high quality videos.
So unless Nintendo still has these hidden in a vault somewhere, I highly doubt basically high quality versions of these commercials such are just going to be lost with time.
Probably. And I know they have a vault, but I don't think we ever have access to them.
Well, obviously they probably got all kinds of stuff in there that we'll never get back to.
Yep. I've actually seen where it is. I know where it is because I go to school at DigiPen. DigiPen currently, the school is actually in the top floor of a warehouse, and on the bottom floor is just full of Nintendo stuff.
It's a warehouse?
It's a warehouse. It's just full.
Wow.
It's like if you've ever been into Lowe's or Home Depot, and you know how they have those really tall
those really tall shelves
that are just huge.
Yeah. I live out in the country, so me and Dad are always going in places like that to get stuff.
Yeah, and it's got just tons of stuff, and they're all these huge boards and huge boxes that they just set them 50 feet in the air on top of these giant, well, not 50 feet in the air, maybe 20 feet in the air, on top of these giant shelves. Well, they've got the exact sort of thing in this warehouse. They're just huge shelves lining the entire thing, just full of, I'm sure, mostly promotional materials and stuff. It's just boxes labeled Nintendo. They don't say what's inside them and stuff. And I've never been in there. No one's allowed in there.
Well, obviously, because there's obviously the threat of thievery.
Well, no,
I wouldn't say. I'm not calling you a thief. Don't worry.
No, people go in there because that's also like they use the warehouse both as permanent storage and as a place to a place where they do box packaging. Like when they print a game, they get the CDs from when they've been printed in China, or the DVDs, excuse me. They print the game DVDs in China and they bring them here, and then they have another company, probably in America, that's doing the printing of the box art, and then another company provides the boxes themselves, and then they have a little assembly line in there, and over the summer at least, people go in there and they box games. They put the discs in the box and they attach the, all that. I actually had some friends who worked there.
Wow.
But, I mean, they're not allowed to go wandering the warehouse or anything, but it's in the same area. So people can go in there, but there's just not, it's not like a museum that you can go visit or anything. All I know about it is because the windows are transparent at night. You can't see into it during the day, but at night when the lights are still on, I can see inside.
It's like one of those windows you usually see in interrogation rooms on television, right?
Yeah.
One-way mirrors?
Yeah, it's not a mirror, it's just really dark tinted glass, and you can't see through it during the day. But I can see through it at night, and it just fine, and I can just see all these boxes and things. Some stuff I can't even recognize. But enough about that. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Okay.
So yeah, so got to add a bunch of those. I added a bunch of those images. Yes, I'm working on those trailers. I actually put up some new ones. That's our next bit of news items. DC Composer suggested a possible idea called Star Fox Online Network.
Yeah, we talked about this before the podcast. This looks really interesting.
The Star Fox Online, and it would be basically a conglomerate of the sites where it's like a web ring but more specific, right? It's specifically to Star Fox sites. It's not limited to us, but for right now, it's going to contain Star Fox Online, the Krystal Archive, Saurian Translator, Star Fox Command All the Words. DZ Composer wants to make a site called ClassicStarFox.com, which will be, or something like that, some variation of that, which will be just about the games before Star Fox Adventures. So Star Fox, Star Fox 2, and Star Fox 64.
There's been kind of a few arguments between, older fans and newer fans on Star Fox Online forums recently about that stuff.
Very much.
Yeah, it's caused a lot of havoc on the forums.
Not necessarily. It's debate, People have opinions, and they have their right to their opinions. I believe my opinions are right because I've been around longer, and I'm pretty smart, Yeah. But I could be wrong. You never know. So, anyway, that's the goal, is to get basically more traffic by linking the sites together and a sharing of resources. And I've already started that I made a YouTube channel called Star Fox Online Network. And it's just right now it has all the promo demo ad videos I have of Star Fox Adventures, and I'm going to add the ones I have for Assault and Command when I get a chance.
Speaking of the promo ads, I remember seeing the commercial for Star Fox Assault because while we were at school one day, we had this thing where we watched the news, and I remember seeing that one day. This is back before I was a real big Star Fox fan, and that was the weirdest commercial I've ever seen.
Was it the one with the British?
Yeah, the foxhounds, and then all of a sudden everything starts exploding.
Yeah. The hunter becomes the hunted was the tagline.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've got that. I got to add that one. Anyway, so, yes, the Star Fox Online Network eventually is going to share resources in terms of video and audio and stuff like that. And that means that this YouTube channel will eventually have all of the Star Fox demos, cutscenes, trailers, etc.
Yeah.
Or not demos. It will also have all the cutscenes from all the games.
That'll be good, because basically you've been piggybacking off Krystal Archive for that stuff, haven't you?
Yeah. Right now I've been posting, I posted all the additional Star Fox Assault cutscenes that I have recorded that don't have Krystal in it onto the Krystal Archive instead. Where they're kind of out of place and out of order.
Yeah.
So I'll probably move those over, and then we'll have another playlist for stuff like technical videos, where me or DZ Composer explains some piece of Star Fox history or something.
Yep.
And probably we'll use the favorite system to favorite our most favored fan films out there. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be an interesting experiment.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned technical videos explaining how the games work and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some plenty good things. I play most Star Fox 64 a lot when I'm at school or something. I have it on an emulator. That's the only place I use it because I'm split on the debate about that, but I won't get into that. But thing is, I play around and I take screenshots just so I can mess with them. I noticed that in the Landmaster missions, the R-Wing model is different. It's lower polygon, different textures. They use a separate R-Wing model for than they do in the actual R-Wing missions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you can't see inside the cockpit, and how in the opening cutscene you can see where the polygons intersect when it goes when he opens the wings up. There's no polygon change on the R-Wings in the Landmaster missions. They're all in that set position. So there's probably plenty, but I've always wondered, why the change? Why did they use a different model?
Well, I can tell you why. The why is because to save memory and to save speed, it makes the game faster.
Yeah, that's
When they use a
understandable.
simpler model and simpler textures, it speeds everything else up.
Yeah.
Because it's called detail-based scaling. There's different ways to do it, but the basic idea is if you can't really see the detail realistically, then remove that detail.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about it because you're not seeing it anyway. And there's all kinds of different ways to do it in 3D graphics. There's ways to do it automatically, and there's ways to do it manually. And I think they're probably doing it manually by just simply saying, use this model when you're in this stage.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay.
So that's all the news we have with regard to Krystal and Star Fox. I do have a couple things I want to mention that are outside the realm of the two. One is just to add a bit of furry news, just for fun, because I like to add a little bit of extra there, so you can be a more well-rounded listener. I'm way behind in telling you about this, but I recently, and by recently I mean several months ago, found out about an artist, a musician named, I believe his name is Renard Quingston.
I think I know what you're talking about here.
Yeah, and he is a single artist who does all kinds of different music, mostly in the electronic genre.
Yeah.
But some ambient and some rock and some breakbeat and other different types.
Yep.
But the interesting thing about it is that all of his albums and perhaps not necessarily, I mean, because furry, remember, is a visual art. It's what does it mean to have a furry song, right?
Yeah, you got a point there.
But some of the subject matter of the songs in terms of lyrics, as well as the all of the album art is all furry related. And then the things he's singing about or talking about in his songs are stuff that furries typically are interested in, such as video games, memes, and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I actually really enjoy his music because it's just this sort of weird electronic music that you just don't get a lot of places. You know, most of it's very specific to a specific type of techno, and he does all different types of electronic music, and he also adds a bit of randomness in there, which I always appreciate. But just, you know, if you're considering checking it out, you know, it may not be for you, because I know that electronic is a highly specific genre, and and some people like it and other people don't.
Yeah,
like
most
passion.
electronic songs you hear in video games is stuff that I would go for. But I actually went ahead and took a listen to some of his stuff, and frankly, it's just not my thing. I just didn't get into it as much as some people would.
And not all of his songs are great, but there are some real gems in there, at least in my opinion. And I've actually started making a list of the songs I want to get when I eventually get around to it. I'm going to go and buy. It's probably going to be like 40 or 50 songs from various albums.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in having a listen and seeing what it's all about, you can get there by going to Lap Fox Tracks, where tracks is spelled with an X rather than a CK. lapfoxtracks.com. And you can find all of his music there. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention briefly about in personal life. I have defied my own expectations, and I am actually coming in towards the end of my thesis.
Woo!
I'm actually reaching the beginning of the end. I actually have to work harder now because I'm going to be finishing up. I had to prove my thesis to other people in the coming weeks, and that means I've got a lot of back-end research to do and comparison operations. But basically, I just wanted to say that it's all coming to an end. Now I just need a job, and I'll be set.
Woo! Party!
Well, you know, for me, a party is to get together with a bunch of geeks and talk about computers and programming. But you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of the news. Unless you have something you want to add.
Star Fox rules.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now we're going to get into listener email. which I completely misspelled. I forgot the N.
Lister.
Yeah, Lister. Yeah, that's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's begin. I think we're going to try and do it the same sort of way, but, where we alternate who's talking. So someone's singing outside my doorway.
What?
One of my neighbors is singing outside my doorway. I apologize if you can hear that. So I'm going to start reading the first one, and then we can both respond if we want to say something. Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Munster writes, nice video. He's talking about the my fan film, the A Girl Like That.
A Girl Like That,
film.
yeah.
A Girl Like That. That song matches really good with the video, and I don't mean just the text to video synchronization. So, do you have much snow? Here in Germany, it's very cold, and it's coming down more and more, and the roads are really slippery. He asks. I said, yes, thank you. I've worked very hard on the video. It actually took only a few days to make it, and I think the key was the fact that the song really fit Krystal well. Mm-hmm. Not just in terms of its beat and being a fun, interesting sounds, but also the lyrics themselves lend themselves really well to Krystal. I said that both in my home of Louisiana and now here in Seattle, we don't get much snow. In Louisiana, there's like one snowfall every 2 or 3 years. And it usually doesn't stay more than a few hours. And here in Seattle, we've had maybe 1 or 2 snowfalls per year. And it can stay for a couple of days, but nothing really heavy. Although, actually, since I've sent him that email, everything changed. Here in Seattle, we're experiencing really warm temperatures in comparison. And in Louisiana, my home, my family just informed me that they've actually closed schools because it snowed like 8 inches of snow, which is just totally unusual.
It's been all kinds of snowfall all across the U.S.
It's been a really cold winter.
Yeah. Mind if I comment on this?
Certainly.
Yeah. I know not many people are going to care about me, but I'll put my response to this anyway. Well, when you ask if there's much snow, I live in Missouri, like around the St. Louis area, and they actually say that Missouri is a lot like Germany. That's what a lot of German immigrants have said when they first came here, and we've had a lot of snow. Since Christmas. There's almost every year there's at least one really heavy snowfall. We've been part of that really big heavy snowfall. It's been all across the U.S. I'm looking out my window right now. There's still some melting off, but it can get pretty cold here. This is from Goldsnake. Am I correct?
I think so.
Yeah. Goldsnake writes, me and one of my friends were arguing the other day. I said Krystal did eventually learn English because in Assault, when she speaks it matches her mouth. He said the translator program Slippy made in Adventures was just running the whole time and hooked up in the R-Wings. I think I'm right, so could you please reply so we can get this settled?
And I, of course, went into a long-winded response. Here's my reasoning on this issue.
Wow.
First of all, when we say that Krystal knows English, what I think you really mean is that she knows the natural interplanetary language spoken in Lilat. Because the games are translated into different countries' languages, that is, in Japan, Star Fox talks in Japanese, in America they speak in English, etc., we can assume that whatever language they speak in Lilat, it's probably completely different from any language that we have on Earth. So to ask if Krystal really speaks English is silly. She doesn't. The question is, does Krystal speak Lilatian?
Yahtzee!
So, there are several plot holes related to when Krystal knew what and who. So my answer to your question will be a guess at best. For example, Fox had his translator on during the time the Krazoa appeared to him, yet she cried out in Saurian. Perhaps this was related to the Krazoa transmission of the words, but probably it was just a plot hole.
Actually, in all seriousness, from some of those things you found, the voice clips, her cries for help was originally supposed to be in English.
Exactly. Well, originally there was no Saurian at all in the entire game. That was a relatively recent addition. So anyway, it says, Then remember that the translator device was only intended to be used in Soria during the mission. We have no references to it ever again. Even when Fox and Krystal were visited by Tricky years later, there's no indication that Fox was using a translator device. On the other hand, remember that the voice acting always matched up with the lips of the characters. Even Tricky, who we know was being actively translated, lip-synced perfectly with his English words. So lip syncing itself, that argument, is not really a valid proof that he's actually or she's actually speaking English or Lilatnian. However, I believe it is generally accepted that Krystal used some part of her psychic powers to learn Saurian quickly. After all, Krystal is not from Soria, she's from Serenia, the inhabitants of which we all assume speak Lilatnian because we have no counter-evidence to this. There would be no reason for Krystal to continue to speak Saurian specifically ever after having left Soria, since that wouldn't be her natural language even if Lilatnian wasn't. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that Krystal does in fact speak both languages fluently.
Mm-hmm. Thing is, most people would think that the Saurian language would be Krystal's language. That's just the natural fan exception. But if you really think of it, and logically, it wouldn't. Wouldn't you think?
Because Krystal isn't from Soria at all. She only just got there at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
She was responding to a distress. What?
Quick question. How do you pronounce that? Sauria or Sauria? Krystal always said Sauria in the game, while Fox said Sauria.
Sauria would probably be correct.
Sauria would be probably the British accent put onto it?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Krystal, Alesia Glidewell often spoke saying it Sauria, which, I believe that was her first time, as she said, ever doing a British accent for something, like for an actual production thing. And so she wasn't sure if she was doing it right, and that might be one of those things that she wasn't sure about.
All right.
So, but whatever, it worked out, People knew what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, Goldsnake wrote again, not about the same topic. He says, what if Krystal never was? What would your opinion of Star Fox games or anything about Star Fox be if Nintendo got what they wanted and Krystal never existed? Also, what is your opinion on other furry game characters? For example, have you heard of Carmelita Fox from Sly Cooper?
I've heard of her, just I don't know anything about her since I've never played that game.
Mm-hmm. I know a little bit about her. Oddly, the only thing I know about her, I know from watching videos of the game because I wanted to make sure I knew about her for the interview with Alesia Glidewell, who in fact voiced the character.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So, I responded to him, if Krystal never was, I definitely would be less interested in Star Fox. Don't misunderstand, I was a fan of Star Fox long before Krystal, but Krystal and my being a big fan of Krystal definitely influenced how I act on that fandom. Or how I act as a fan of Star Fox. If Krystal never existed, there's no telling what would have changed. Probably the outcome would have been... Possibly the outcome of the games themselves would be better, but unlikely. Temporarily, Star Fox Adventures was going to go through just without Krystal. In that case, I don't think much would have changed. If Star Fox Adventures had never came out, probably a lot of things would have changed. And I don't really know how. I don't think really anyone can know that for sure.
Unless they had a time machine and fixed it.
Right. My opinions of other furry characters. I am an equal opportunity furry. That is, I like almost all species of anthropomorphic characters with equal amount, as far as attractiveness goes. I even like the unusual anthro species. I've got no problem with equines, avians, scalies, monster furs. Obviously, the talent of the artist has a big influence on that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I won't reject an anthro purely because on the basis of his or her species. Unfortunately, most furry females I know of aren't from the games, but from TV shows. I do like Renamon, who is technically from a game, but who gets most of her personality from a TV show. Carmelita is all right. I don't really know much about her, sadly, and so I can't say either way. how I feel about her. So, yeah, that's my response to that.
Nothing I can really comment on that one, so we can move on to the next one, I guess.
Okay. Are you an equal opportunity fur?
I like all types of furries. I mean, I like all types of fur characters.
Okay,
Mostly,
you have some favorites, right?
Yeah, mainly I like fox. I like fox furs the best.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, this is just me. I usually see like reptilian characters as being like the bad guys. That's just me personally.
That's a stereotype that's typically given to them.
Yeah, and thanks to Star Fox, I always usually see apes as being bad too. Maybe not chimps, but apes.
Oh yes.
Like chimps, like Donkey Kong and like Donkey Kong and Diddy. Those are what I would see as good guys, but most like big brutal looking ape characters I would see as bad guys, thanks to Star Fox influencing some of that. In fact, the original Star Fox comics had lizards as being the bad guys.
And lizards are the bad guys in Adventures.
Star Fox Adventures, yeah.
Well, but then there's lots of
dinosaurs on that
lizard
planet.
characters, so yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Why don't you
Lightfoots.
read the question for us?
Creepy guy outside your window.
That's his nickname.
I'm like, okay then. I found your website while browsing the internet a month or two ago. Since then, I've looked at the fan art, read a few of the fan fictions, and even subscribed to your podcast. I've been wanting to make a donation, but right now I'm broke, and I'm too young to get a credit card, or a job for that matter. Anyway, after reading some of the fan fictions off your site, I thought I'd try writing one of my own. That's why I'm contacting you. I wanted to ask a few questions about the world of Star Fox, and you definitely seem like the person to ask, especially since most of the questions revolve around Krystal's homeworld of Serenia. I know that it is... He wrote this wrong. I know that it was destroyed, or at least invaded and occupied by Andross' forces. Krystal is supposedly the sole survivor. What I need to know is the details of Serenia's invasion destruction. Was the planet itself destroyed, or did Andross' forces just try to kill everyone in a more conventional manner? Or maybe it doesn't explain at all, which would be best since it would give me more room to be creative. Thanks for reading my message. Any info you could give would be greatly appreciated.
And I'm guessing that you can probably say one of the things wrong with his knowledge.
Well, yeah, you've already told me this stuff before. There was no definitive proof that Andross invaded Serenia. Only the assumptions because Andross captured Krystal in the Krazoa Palace.
Exactly. And we don't even know that it was Andross himself that was actually doing the capturing, but he was certainly involved.
Yeah.
So I responded that we know exactly two things about Serenia. Krystal is the only survivor of it, and it was doomed. We know absolutely nothing else for sure. That is it. Mm-hmm. We don't know by whom, by what, or by how it was doomed. It might still exist. It might not. It might have been destroyed by Andross. It might have been destroyed by General Pepper. No one knows. Okay? There's absolutely no information about it. So all the theories you've ever heard about Andross being the destroyer are pure speculation. So feel free to be as speculative as you want, because chances are Nintendo will never mention this again. I appreciate you wanting to donate, and it's fine if you can't do it right now. Don't worry about it. When you get a job or whatnot, you can donate then if you want. I'll still be around. So yeah, you know.
Actually, I was hoping when I was waiting for us to do this podcast over the past week, I've been researching. I was hoping a conversation would come up about this, about Serenia. Because there's a certain way I imagine Serenia. If you go with the route that Serenia still exists, the way I imagine the planet being set up, I imagine it being like Talon 4 from Metroid Prime. Like, the planet
a desolate world that's been abandoned.
Like there's still some forms of life left on there. Like there's Talon Overworld, Magmore Caverns, Fendrana Drifts, and then I honestly imagine like the ruins of the Serenian civilization, like the Chozo ruins. Like
yeah,
it seems like
that would be valid. Okay.
Yeah.
If the planet was doomed, as Talon 4 was, and most of the Chozo either died off or abandoned the planet.
Yeah, actually in Metroid Prime, the Chozo left before the Phazon meteor struck, so they came back to try and help the planet in their spirit forms. I study a lot of the logs you get in the game, but then their minds began to get corrupted by the Phazon.
Well, a lot of them weren't yet ascended. That's the ascension occurred during that time. But yeah, they may have left and come back, but I do know that they weren't all spiritual beings yet. Because that was the problem, was the Chozo ghosts occurred because they reached that ascension phase, and not the Phazon, but the actual ascension phase turned some of them crazy.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that might be one, but you know what? We don't know because Nintendo has decided to not mention it ever again.
Yeah, but
So far.
but as for fan speculations, I would think the Talon 4 model or even Ether from Prime 2 would come the closest to being what it would be.
Still has people on it.
Yeah, I mean, but get rid of the Luminoth and maybe replace them. Like I said, here's another thing. There could be some kind of a thing that went wrong, and creatures like the Aang came in and wiped out the Serenians.
Oh, there's all kinds of possible scenarios.
Yeah,
What we know for certain is that it might have been that it is speculation that it was Andros who did it, one way or the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, anyways,
but I think the Talon 4 model would be the best that would fit in.
Okay, we'll see. Mm-hmm. The next one, it comes from Starfar. He's missing an R there. I'm going to say Star Fox anyway. Star Fox 6493 writes, I admire your work, and I applaud you with the dedication and time it takes to make the site and maintain it. I do have one question, though. Do you think that the Serenians and the Cornerians are in some way related? I mean, like ancient ancestors or something along that lines? I just need someone else's opinion, and you were the first one to come to mind. Thanks for taking the time to read this letter. This is another speculation thing, but I said I don't know. There's no data on the relationships between the people of Lylat and Serenia. It seems reasonable that they were all originally from the same planet, whatever that may be, since they have similar body types. We know that the Star Fox universe has had space travel for a very, very long time. So again, not a bad chance, but we just don't have the data for sure.
Yeah. There's plenty of things that could be speculated about that, for all we know. Like the scattering of the species after they came from their original location. Something like that maybe could have happened. But then again, we don't know. There's still plenty of ground to cover in the Star Fox universe that Nintendo hasn't.
Exactly. We got, and then the last letter is just a pure thanks letter. It didn't really need a response. I'll just read it real quick.
Okay.
He says, I can't express how happy it made me to see my work featured on the site. He's an artist. Marcus Williams. Amongst a listing of 800 other new fan arts, none of the excitement was lost in seeing that not only the pieces I sent you were there, but also some of my newer ones. So thanks again, and keep up the good work. And always nice to receive letters of appreciation from people.
It is.
And that is thankfully all I have. This is going to be one terrible podcast to edit, let me tell you, because I got to edit this one, and I've got to edit Star Fox Runners and put them all together and sync them up, because what you guys can't hear is all the technical problems we've had trying to get this thing working.
Yeah, my computer isn't as good as his, so there's problems on my end, problems with Skype, problems with all kinds of stuff that thankfully you guys don't have to listen to, but we've had a heck of a time trying to deal with.
Yeah, we've been actually doing active podcast stuff for the last 3 hours, and we've only got 2 hours worth of actual recorded material. So I don't know how long it's going to be when we actually edit down, but this is going to end up probably being one of our longest podcasts because we've had such great long discussions, and I really like the discussion aspect.
And this is nothing compared to what this is when we tried to do it last time. I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but we tried doing we did?
Yeah, we mentioned it.
I thought we mentioned that
the failure last time.
But I think that was during one of our current failures.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Want to say it again just in case?
Well, we tried doing a podcast together, episode number 22, and it failed. because of lost connections and then loss of time to do it.
And
So
my
I ended
computer
up
was a
having to
piece of
completely
junk.
re-record it. What?
My computer was a piece of junk back then, so a lot of things kept on going wrong with the recording process.
Yes. So, but thankfully we got it done. So, I hope you all have enjoyed this podcast. This is episode number 24. I'm Mr. Krystal. You can always contact me with questions and information, specifically information. I really love to get news tips from you guys. And words of praise and death threats to my email address, mrkrystal@gmail.com. Actually, send the death threats to Star Fox Runner.
Hey!
He could use some attention here.
Sure.
Just kidding about death threats. Yeah, and I've been honored to have my friend Star Fox Runner being part of the podcast.
And if I may say something?
Certainly.
Feel free to visit me on either my DeviantArt page or even maybe if you want to chat with me, talk with me on Star Fox Online. We welcome new members. Just be polite when you go on there and don't cause trouble. But we'll be happy to receive new members and people to talk to. And there are interesting people to talk to on Star Fox Online. But you can also visit my DeviantArt page at sfr-starfoxrunner.deviantart.com.
And with that, I think we'll end this episode. Hope you've all enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye, people.